The calm before the storm, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all are ready for this Wednesday edition of the Logan Blackman Show. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. I hope you're having a fantastic week, and I hope you are ready for the 2025 NFL Draft. I cannot believe that we are finally here, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot believe that it is finally upon us. Oh my goodness. It doesn't feel real. It really doesn't feel real that we are at this point in time, but that we got to face facts. We got to face facts. Yes, I know it's a day away still, but give this to me. Give this to me. It's just, I've said it before, I'll say it again. It doesn't feel like it that long ago where we saw the Philadelphia Eagles beat the piss out of the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It really doesn't feel that long ago when I was watching Josh Allen jump over Budda Baker week 1 in the NFL season. It doesn't feel like that long ago. It doesn't. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago since last year's draft. And so much in the NFL landscape has changed in that time frame. The Washington Commanders made an NFC championship game. The Washington Commanders made the NFC championship. Just keep repeating that to yourself. The Denver Broncos made the playoffs. They are no longer in quarterback purgatory with the whole Russell Wilson situation. Sean Payton's got a quarterback that he likes, seemingly, in Bo Nix. The Giants and the Jets have changed quarterbacks from this past season. Daniel Jones, a former 6th overall pick, is no longer there, and in comes Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Justin Fields goes to the Jets. The Steelers might take Aaron Rodgers. They might not. They want to bring in 4 quarterbacks this offseason. They currently have 2 on the roster, so look out for that. But we'll get into the entirety of the NFL draft here in a little bit. But let's go over the housekeeping items first. Make sure to follow the Logan Blackman Show on every single form of social media: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also follow it on the YouTube channel as well. Make sure to follow Logan Blackman Show on every single form. Wait, we just repeat ourselves. Twitter is Logan_Blackman. Instagram account's Blackman Logan. The show's Instagram account is The Logan Blackman Show 1. Facebook and YouTube, search Logan Blackman Show. Make sure you like and follow the Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to be posting a clip from this podcast on the main channel where we just go over every single pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Just go over like a little bit of a synopsis for each pick. I don't have enough time this week to actually record a full video previewing the NFL Draft, so we're just going to do it like this. I know it might be a little lazy, but I do apologize. I just want to get something out prior to the NFL Draft on the main channel. But this will obviously be on the podcast channel, which you can go check out, the Logan Blackman Show podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just search Logan Blackman Show. Make sure you like and follow on those. Make sure to leave a rating of 5 stars. Make sure to check out the blog posts on the LoganBlackmanShow.com. You can check out our latest quarterback prospect rankings. We talked about those last week. Video came out last Saturday, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you went and go checked that out. And make sure, again, to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe as well to the podcast YouTube channel as well. And make sure to check out the Believe in Iowa podcast as well. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We got an interview with a special somebody. I'm not going to say who. Potentially coming up next week. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We haven't done a show in a little bit now since Iowa's bowl game. So make sure to subscribe and we'll have content coming out for you on that very, very soon. But again, this is all about the 2025 NFL Draft. I just need to keep on saying that because this is the best time of the year. I would say like the Super Bowl is the best time of the year, but my team's never been in it in my lifetime. I know the Bills have obviously made 4 Super Bowls. They lost all 4 Super Bowls. I've never seen them play in a Super Bowl. I haven't. For 17 years of my life, I never saw them play in the NFL playoffs, let alone go to a freaking Super Bowl. So the NFL Draft was always a really fun time for me. Though it around my childhood and early adult life, they're not early adult life, but like early high school, I guess you could say, the Bills were picking, like they were in NFL Draft purgatory, which is not a great spot to be in. Like they weren't bad enough each year to have a good draft pick, but they weren't good enough to actually make the playoffs. They're constantly finishing 6-10 and 7-9 every single year. Obviously now you go 6-11 and 7-10, but back in the day when you played 16 games, and so hey, we're going to be talking about 18 games probably here in a little bit as well, but draft purgatory is a rough place to be in. It's a really rough place to be in, but when it comes to draft night, it's a lot more fun for those teams at the top of the draft. And speaking from experience last year in regards to picking later in the draft and waiting all night, like the Bills backers here in Des Moines, we do a watch party every year. I haven't gone to it since Josh Allen got drafted, but every year they do a watch party for the NFL draft. And last year, if you went to that watch party, you didn't see the Buffalo Bills pick in the first round. So you waited the entire night for the Bills to pick at 28, and not only did they not pick at 28, they didn't pick at 32, which is the pick they traded back with the Chiefs because they traded that pick to the Carolina Panthers. So if you wanted to watch your team pick, they didn't end up picking. Now, we've talked about this before. This is the first year in maybe ever. I could be getting that a little bit wrong here, but the first year where every single team owns their own pick in the draft. In the first round, I shouldn't say every round, obviously, but in the draft, the first round, each team owns their own pick. And what I mean by that is, like, obviously, the Titans own the first pick, the Browns own the second pick, Giants own the third pick, the Bills own the 30th pick, the Colts own the 14th pick, the Falcons own the 15th pick, the Broncos own the 20th, and so on and so forth. Now, I don't know if that means, and we have had no first-round draft picks traded so far this offseason. It's the latest season. I think it's the latest in NFL history, but at least since Joe Montana got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs from the 49ers. That was the latest up until that point that no first-round picks had been traded. And we have still not seen a singular first-round pick be traded. And again, that could mean absolute chaos come Thursday, or maybe we've got a nice chill Thursday night on our hands. Maybe we have that, or we don't have any real trades happening until the 15th pick. But maybe something goes absolutely ballistic. And we'll go over all of those scenarios here right now. And with the first pick, the Tennessee Titans, this one's pretty self-explanatory. This one's just Cam Ward. The Titans announced today, actually, I think it's April 22nd, that not Cam Ward, but that they are going to be staying and picking at first overall, which has been the expectation. I know there were some talks about like, oh, they're open to trading. Well, yeah, every team is open to trading. I'm like, there's all different scenarios that could play out in that situation. Like, everybody's open to doing something. Like, I'm open to playing for the Buffalo Bills. Will it ever happen? No, but I'm open to it. Like, I always think that's so funny. Or like a team picking the top 10. They've done extensive research on top prospect in the draft. It's like, well, yeah, I'd expect them to do extensive research on every top prospect in the draft. Like, once you get into the later part of the first round, then yeah, it starts becoming a little bit interesting. But I don't really need to see the Jets have done extensive research on Tyler Warren. Yeah, I would expect the freaking Jaguars have done the exact same thing. Like, if you're a player that could be picked in the top 10, I would hope that if my team's got a top 10 pick, they're doing extensive research on you. And for the Tennessee Titans, that extensive research has led them to potentially, obviously things could change and maybe there's a giant curveball in there, selecting Cam Ward with the first overall pick. That's been the common brain thought for the past however many weeks now, and now it's starting to become more and more of a reality as Thursday night fastly approaches. Second overall pick and third overall pick, the Browns and Giants, these two guys have been talked about a lot throughout the entire process about what these two teams are going to do. For the longest time, it was like, oh, they're both going to draft quarterbacks. Because this is when the Tennessee Titans were like, at the start of the offseason, like, oh, they're going to take a generational prospect, and that obviously is Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. But then as you go on, you're like, okay, well, it's Cam Ward. So at that point, it was like, well, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders would go 2 and 3 to the Giants and Browns. But then it went, okay, now Ward's going number 1. So Shedeur's going to go to the Browns at 2. But then it was like, actually, no, they got their eyes set on Abdul Carter. So the Giants are going to take Shedeur Sanders at number 3. But then as soon as we hear Abdul Carter's going number 2 to the Cleveland Browns, then change that around because Travis Hunter is now the favorite to go second overall. So it's just changed. We went from the Browns are taking a quarterback early to they've zeroed in on Abdul Carter to now they're taking Travis Hunter. That is the stupidness and the awesomeness at the same time of the NFL draft. It's every single year some stupid, chaotic thing like that. We have heard 3 different things from the Cleveland Browns, and they picked second overall in the draft. Now, it looks very likely that Travis Hunter will be going second overall at this point, and it looks like very likely that Abdul Carter will be going third overall. But who the hell really knows? If the Giants really like Shedeur Sanders, because they went to a lot of Colorado games this year. I think if we're talking about pound for pound, the Giants had probably more people at Colorado games than any other team in the NFL. And that's scouting both Shedeur and Travis Hunter. But at this point in time, it looks like it's going to be Cam Ward at 1, Travis Hunter 2, and Abdul Carter 3. There have been some reports that the Browns and Giants are open to trading the picks, but it's the same exact situation again. I'm open to playing for the Bills. Like, if they want to contact me, yeah, I'd be open to the idea of signing a contract to play for them. But it's probably never going to happen. And I'm not saying that, I shouldn't say never, because anything's possible. Anything's possible. But the Giants and Browns, at this point in time, I just don't see a reality where they trade those picks. I really don't. Maybe I'm lost in the whole situation. Maybe they've really been focused on trading those picks away. But I just don't see it at this point in time. If you have two players like Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, why would you trade away the chance to get those players? That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Maybe I'm looking at it from the wrong angle or something. But if you have a chance to draft one of those two guys and you don't need to trade, like, they are widely considered to be the two best players in the draft. Widely considered to be the two best players in the draft. I don't even need to do the whole thing like, oh, depending on who you ask. No, everybody just accepts that these two guys are probably number 1 and 2, in whatever order you want to put them in, atop the draft. So you're not trading those picks if you have to get, okay, let's say you have a bounty that you're willing to accept from a team. What kind of bounty are you going to be expecting to get for an edge rusher and a wide receiver / corner, depending on how you want to look at Travis Hunter? What are you thinking teams are willing to give up? Because to get into the top 3, you are going to be giving up a lot of picks. And most of the time it's for quarterbacks. And at this point in time, it doesn't really seem like the quarterback of Shedeur Sanders is going to be going with that 2nd or 3rd overall pick in the draft, regardless of who's picking there, whether that be the Giants, whether that be the Browns. It just doesn't seem like that. But again, crazier things have happened throughout the course of the NFL draft. There could be a team that we never expected to take a quarterback. The Colts. What if they are like, okay, we're going to trade Anthony Richardson and we're going to select a quarterback. We're going to trade into the top 3 to get our guy because Chris Ballard's on the one of the hottest seats in the NFL. One would assume, I don't know 100% sure, but one would assume that Irsay is getting kind of tired of this whole situation down there. Again, might be reading into a little bit too much. But the Browns, they're not struggling for picks right now. The Browns have 10 picks at this point in time in the NFL draft, which is joint 2nd out of every team in the league. The Giants have 8. So it would make more sense, I guess, for the Giants to trade back than the Browns, but the Browns have their choice of player. And the thing is that sucks for them is that the Browns probably have the worst quarterback situation in the league. Probably. I mean, you look at their quarterbacks right now. It's Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, and Joe Flacco, who just turned 40. And Joe Flacco's fun. Like, everybody loves to do the whole Joe Flacco's elite thing. But Deshaun Watson, Jimmy Haslam literally came out and said, yeah, that was a big swing and a miss. Like, they are fully aware of how bad of a trade that was. And it looks worse and worse with each passing season. And you traded Kenny Pickett, the former 20th or 21st overall pick in the draft, I can't remember the exact number he was picked at, for a 5th round draft pick and a quarterback who was drafted in the 5th round in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. You don't really have the greatest situation in the NFL in regards to the quarterback room. You can make an argument, depending on who you ask, I guess, that this is the worst quarterback situation in the league right now. Obviously, they're going to draft somebody probably in round 2, unless they trade back into the 1st round. But man, I'm sure they would have loved to have themselves some Cam Ward. And the Titans like, nah, we're not even going to give you the opportunity for that. So yeah, we're taking Cam Ward at 1. So again, Ward 1, Hunter 2, Carter 3. That's what it seems like right now. And the Patriots at 4. We've said this guy for a while for the Patriots is Will Campbell. He just feels like a New England Patriot. He just does. I can't really elaborate on that, but if you just look at Will Campbell, you can just picture a New England Patriot. I don't know if I'm alone in that sentiment, but he just feels like that kind of guy. I mean, Mike Vrabel's been preaching about it most of the offseason that they need to build around Drake May. They need to get him an offensive line. They need to protect Drake May. They brought in Morgan Moses, which is a very good get. He's got a lot of experience. They did sign him a 3-year deal. I think he's 34 or something like that. I think it's a good short-term get for the offensive line, unless he can stay elite for those 3 years, or if he can stay good. He's not elite, but if he can stay good for those 3 years, then you got to get yourself a pretty good deal. But it's a nice stop situation right there at right tackle. Left tackle's a mess still. So you bring in Will Campbell, and the Patriots, like I would assume most teams are, not really too concerned about his arm length. I don't really think there's that big of an issue there, but he would give you a bookend left tackle for Drake May. And that's what it seems like is going to be going on right now. I've seen some reports about they could throw a wild card in there, and Jalen Walker from Georgia, the edge rusher linebacker from Georgia, could be an option there. Ashton Genty I've seen as an option here as well. I highly doubt it, but I've seen reports of that as well. They've said Patriots could throw a wild card in there. And Genty would sure as hell be a wild card at 4th overall. But Armin Membo from Missouri is another option there. Mason Graham could be a potential option. But Will Campbell just seems like the most Patriot player here. And your biggest need is to protect Drake May. You got the best tackle available right there. You go ahead and take him. And then 5th overall, this one kind of seems like where the draft is going to start. And I didn't really think that was going to be the case if you told me about this a week ago. But right now, the Jaguars are a team that could really be throwing this thing out of whack. Because there's been a report coming out the past couple days that says they want Ashton Genty from Boise State. I believe he was born in Jacksonville. So there's that obvious connection there. And the Jaguars' rush offense was not great last year. Travis Etienne had a massive regress from the season prior. I mean, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons to I think he had less than 600 yards last year. It was pretty much benched for Tank Bigsby. Like, the Jaguars are going to want to improve their rush offense. You look at what Gladstone has said and what Cohen has said. They want to get the best out of Trevor Lawrence. And one of the ways you can do that is giving him a trustworthy, reliable running attack. But in the same time, Armin Membo from Missouri to shore up one of the tackle positions. Yes, I know, like Walker Little and, the tackle from Oklahoma, Anton Harrison. I know they're fine tackles, but if you have a chance to take one of the top guys here at 5, then you go ahead and take them as well. Because apparently, Mason Graham is no longer on the cards here for Jacksonville. Apparently, the Jaguars are locked in on going offense. And that doesn't surprise me too much. Really? I mean, I know we've talked about like Mason Graham going 5th overall because they have that hole next to Eric Armstead in the middle of the defense. You have Trevon Walker, you have Josh Hines Allen on the edges, you have Eric Armstead, you have one hole in the middle of the defense. Gladstone has talked about the need of adding somebody there, but in this class, comparatively to other positions, the defensive tackles are pretty deep. So you can maybe afford to pass on someone like Mason Graham, who's starting to fall down boards from what I've seen because his measurables are not quote-unquote elite enough to be taken with a top 5 selection. We talked about that during Mock Draft 3.0, that could be a concern. But then it started popping up, okay, no, they're going to go back to Mason Graham. But the more and more you look at it, it's like, okay, now it seems like it's either Genty, Membo, or McMillan from Arizona. And I think McMillan would be an option if they traded back with Chicago. But if Chicago traded up to number 5, let's play this hypothetical here, Genty seems like the guy that they want, that they are dreaming. Reports are like the Bears are dreaming or praying that Genty falls to them at 10. That looks extremely unlikely at this point in time because the Raiders are sitting there at 6, who have also been heavily linked to Ashton Genty throughout the course of the offseason. So it's very unlikely that Genty falls to them at 10. So if they trade up to 5, if they have Mason Graham also there, which is another position the Bears have been heavily linked with as interior defensive linemen, would they take Mason Graham? Or would they take Ashton Genty? That's the whole conversation now around the position of running back, because if you would have said like 3 years ago, if a team was picking at 10, trading up to 5, and you go like, they're going to select a running back at 5, people would have lost their freaking minds. But now, with the quote-unquote kind of resurgence of the running back position, you can kind of go like, I kind of justify that, especially with a player that Ashton Genty is. And the Bears' vastly improved offensive line from a year ago would bode well for Genty. But I could also see a reality where the Bears just stay pat at 10 and take someone like Travion Henderson from Ohio State in the 2nd round or something. You have 2 second-round picks. You have 39 and 41 as second-round picks. So maybe that's even more of an incentive to trade up to 5 because you have another second-round pick to work with. And you're going to get probably a fifth-round pick from Jacksonville in the process as well. So there's options for the Bears there at 10, but the Jaguars, if Genty is the option at 5, which I'm very torn on if I actually believe that's the case, if they actually like him, or if it's a case of we want the Bears to trade up because we know how much the Chicago Bears like Genty, and we know that they know the Raiders also want Genty. So if we strike a deal with them, like if that happened, I would say it'd be Genty at 5 to the Bears, and then McMillan would go to the Jaguars at 10. That would be my guess at this point in time. I've also seen them linked with Tyler Warren, ironically, as we brought up earlier. But according to reports, who knows what's true at this point, because it's a week before the draft. Like when these reports start coming out. Who knows what's real? But apparently they're going after offense in the first round. Which, if you go back to the earliest press conference with James Gladstone when he first got introduced to the GM, he talked about ad nauseum the importance of building around Trevor Lawrence, that we have not seen the best out of Trevor Lawrence yet. Which is scary given the fact that he was, I believe, the most expensive quarterback in the NFL for a hot second. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that. But it doesn't surprise me that that would be the case now, but the entire offseason was Mason Graham, Armin Membo potentially, and now Ashton Genty's thrown his name into the mix. Like, it's gotten crazy. And the Raiders, seemingly, it's Ashton Genty or Membo. So they're either taking the running back or they're taking the tackle. Because Colton Miller, one of their starting tackles, former first-round draft pick, who they used with the pick that the Cardinals used to trade it for Josh Rosen, he's in contract limbo, I guess you could say. They have not really resumed contract talks with him, so there's an option hold there. Spytech, the GM, has talked about the importance of hog mollies, both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. You look at when he was at Tampa Bay, talking about the importance of having that game wrecker from the interior defensive line spots. You look at what the Bucs did when they won the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. They dominated from that defensive line. You can go like, well, the Chiefs' offensive line was battered and bruised and all that stuff, but the Buccaneers had an emphasis on building that team from the front on the defensive line. And Spytech, I could see him doing something similar with the Raiders. You already got Christian Wilkins. You just signed Max Crosby to a nice little extension. Adding someone like Mason Graham would make a lot of sense there. But if they want to be more physical on offense and improve that rushing attack, which was the worst in the league last year, you either draft Genty or you draft an offensive tackle in Armin Membo. Those are your two options there. And maybe Jalen Walker's an option. If you want to go a little bit crazy, going off the wall a little bit, he could be an option. McMillan, I could also see being an option as well, getting another receiver in there. But right now, it seems like Genty or Membo. It all depends on what happens at 5. I think whoever the Jaguars don't take at 5, or the Bears, or whoever is at number 5, the Raiders will take them at 6. Because it feels like Membo or Genty will go at 5, Membo and Genty will go at 6. That's what it feels like right now. I could be completely wrong about that. And the Jets, it feels like it's either Membo or Tyler Warren from Penn State. That's what it feels like at this point in time. I did see something today that Aaron Glenn is trying to get them to take a defensive player. They didn't have a name for that. So maybe if Mason Graham falls in their lap at 7, maybe Mason Graham would be the pick there. Getting someone in the interior with Quinnen Williams. There's a lot worse options, a lot worse things you could do with the 7th overall pick, but that Jets offense is just really, the defense is not really the issue here with the Jets. The offense needs to improve. You have a hole at right tackle. You got Olu Fashanu in the first round last year when you traded back with the Vikings, 1 pick, and Fashanu slots in at left tackle. Perfect. Now you got a hole at right tackle, because as we brought up before, Morgan Moses went to the Patriots on a 3-year contract, so you've got a hole there. You don't have any real options there, realistic options there. Aaron Glenn came from the Detroit Lions. You saw the importance of building the offensive line. With Penei Sewell, the program changer with them. Ironically, Penei Sewell was picked with the 7th overall pick in the draft as well. Very ironic how that works out. Also ironically, he plays right tackle. The Lions' resurgence, I guess you could say, started that night. 2021, the 2021 NFL Draft. That's where it pretty much started with the pick of Penei Sewell. And everything slowly added up to that point. I'm not saying Penei Sewell was the sole reason for that, but that was a big culture shift right there, getting him at 7. Membo could be that guy with the Jets. If he's not there, though, it would be Tyler Warren. Tyler Conklin went out to the Chargers. He got a hole at tight end. He wears number 44 because of John Riggins. I know he wasn't known for playing with the Jets, but he played for the Jets, so you got that connection there as well. And you had Sam Laporta with the Detroit Lions. You could bring him in there to give Justin Fields, or whoever the quarterback will end up being week one, a nice, reliable target at the tight end position. So it's either, in my eyes, Warren or Membo. Those are the options right now. The Panthers, this one just feels like Jalen Walker. I mean, he's a North Carolina native. That's not the only reason why I would say that, but why that I would say Jalen Walker to the Panthers, that's not the main reason. But it is a reason. Connections are very important, especially if they're hometown kids. I mean, the Panthers drafted Brian Burns, who's from that area as well. And that was a nice little hometown connection there. The Ravens drafted Orlando Brown. His dad used to play for the Ravens. Like, there's little connections like that can make the world a difference. I mean, the freaking Giants drafted Daniel Jones because he was coached by the guy in college that coached Eli. Like, there's some, like, connections are very important in the NFL draft. But if not Walker, Graham, if he's available, could be an option. I still think they would lean Walker if Graham even was available. McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, we brought him up a few times at this point. He's another option as where you got Leggett there. But your receivers, Adam Thielen is your number 2 receiver right now. Maybe number 1, depending on who you ask. He's not getting any younger. He's not. So you've got to get more weapons for Bryce Young. You saw a nice little resurgence from him in that back half of last season. Why not keep trying to build on that? So if they went with McMillan, that wouldn't surprise me at all. So I think it'll be Walker. But if they went McMillan, I wouldn't be shocked by that in the slightest. The Saints at 9, they're, by some accounts, considered one of the wild card teams in the draft because they're going to be linked with the quarterback. They're going to be linked with Shedeur Sanders the entire process, especially with Derek Carr going down with the injury. But per reports, the Saints are not going to take a quarterback with this pick. I'm not saying they're not going to take a quarterback in the first round because I think there's a very good chance they trade back in and take Jackson Dart. I think there's a very good chance that happens. Because they pick 40th. The Browns and the Giants both pick in front of them at 33 and 34. So you got to trade back into the first round if you want to get your quarterback that they're quote-unquote enamored with, or you take him at 9. And apparently they're enamored with Jackson Dart. So do you pull in New York Giants and take him at 9? Like the Giants did with Daniel Jones like we brought up before? Because they thought someone else would take him? Do you do that? There's the conversation starter right there. Do you take him at 9, or do you trade back into the first round to take him? Because what if the Steelers take him? What if the Rams take him? How far do you have to trade back up to get Jackson Dart? You haven't taken a quarterback in the first round since 1971, which is Archie Manning. So that's going to be a very interesting talking point. But the Saints, for the most part, in Mickey Loomis's tenure, they draft offensive linemen and defensive linemen with premium draft picks. I know we had Jahdae Barron going here last time in the connection with the secondary coach of the Saints, coaching him at Texas. I still think that's a realistic option. But if you look at the main guys here, you're looking at like Michael Williams from Georgia, Shamar Stewart, Mike Green from Marshall on the defensive line things. Offensive line, Kelvin Banks is looking more and more like a realistic option for the New Orleans Saints here. Ryan Ramczyk just retired. You brought in Talisi Fuaga last year. Trevor Penning was drafted in 2022. Trevor Penning's future has seemingly always been in question ever since he stepped foot in New Orleans. And if you want to play him at guard, fine. If you want to play him at tackle, fine. If you want to get rid of him, fine. Kelvin Banks provides that athleticism and versatility. You can play him inside if you need to because of his aforementioned athleticism. So if you want to add that in there, that would make sense. And the Saints, again, they like drafting offensive defensive lines in there. Kellen Moore being an offensive guy, I would assume would like to lean towards the offensive lineman or another weapon because the Saints are so devoid of talent. Like McMillan, again, I'll bring him up. Tyler Warren, I think would be an option as well. Just getting more weapons for whoever the hell the quarterback is. And you draft Garrett Nussmeier next year because his dad's the offensive coordinator. So maybe that's the direction the Saints end up going this year. They don't draft a quarterback at all, and they wait till next year to draft Nussmeier at whatever pick, and they just suck it up with Spencer Rattler and whoever the hell else they want to play at quarterback this year. But they'll probably draft Jackson Dart. But the Saints are a wild card team in here. The Bears, we kind of already talked about them. Genty is the main guy apparently they're wanting, but he looks very unlikely he's going to be available at 10, so unless they want to strike a trade with Jacksonville, they're probably not going to get him. So we're looking at the tight ends. in Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. We're looking at those two guys. I mean, you just listen to the interview Ben Johnson did a couple weeks ago, talking about like throwing up how much he loved Tyler Warren and how much Dennis Allen even talked about how much he liked Tyler Warren. He's a football player. We didn't just take Jahmyr Gibbs in the draft as the Lions because he was a running back. No, we took him because he was a difference maker, a playmaker. You don't look at these guys as their positions. You look at them as difference makers, playmakers, all that kind of stuff. That's what his thinking is with this pick. So if they take Genty, it's not just because he's a running back and they need a running back. No, it's because they feel he can make a difference to the team. Same thing with the tight end position. You go, oh, they have Cole Kmet. He's fine. And this is a kind of a thing I've been thinking about recently. Bears fans have a really weird, I don't know how I want to word this. No one hates the Bears more than Bears fans. I think most Bears fans can agree with me on that sentiment. I know a decent amount of Bears fans living in the state of Iowa. I know a decent amount of them. I'm not saying I know every one of them, but I know a decent amount of them. But for how much they dislike their own team, they love and will defend to the hill the most average players. The Justin Fields thing is still crazy how that whole thing's worked out. There's some people that still claim that he would be the better quarterback for the franchise at this point in time. Cole Kmet is fine. But the way some people talk about Cole Kmet on social media, you would think he's like the next Travis Kelce or something. He's fine, but having Cole Kmet does not rule you out of drafting a tight end here with the 10th overall pick. Cole Kmet is not that guy. He had a fun game last year. He played long snapper. That was fun. But if you have a chance to draft a difference maker in Warren or Loveland, you can take him and play 12 personnel, and that's great. That's what we love to see. If you can make that work, that would be fantastic. That'd make Caleb Williams' life a whole hell of a lot easier. Kelvin Banks, we brought him up before with the Saints. He could be an option here as well because Campbell and Membo will not be here. So if you need an offensive tackle, because I'm still not sold on Braxton Jones. There's another contingent on Bears Twitter that loves Braxton Jones. He's just fine. Having Braxton Jones does not keep you from drafting another tackle. You have 4 spots solidified on the offensive line for all intents and purposes. Left tackle is not solidified, which is the most important position to have solidified on the offensive line. Kelvin Banks, if you want to take him, that would understand that too. We talked about Mason Graham as well. The Bears could go a lot of different directions here. Michael Williams is an option. Shamar Stewart, I think it would be a very realistic option here as well. Adding that versatility because Dennis Allen is going to want to have those versatile players, both on the edges and the defensive tackle spots in this spot. Shamar Stewart, I think, would make a lot of sense for the Bears. A versatile player. Yes, he doesn't have the production. I know. I've heard about that at nauseum this offseason. I'm getting tired of hearing about, we had 4.5 sacks. I don't care. I really don't care. But he could add that versatility and run-stopping ability that the Bears could desperately use on the defensive line. 49ers, same thing. 49ers, same exact thing. They need help on the defensive line and the defense in general. You can look at corner. Charvarius Ward went to the Indianapolis Colts this offseason. Hufanga left. Dre Greenlaw also left. They both went to the Broncos. Defensive line is in shatters pretty much. So, the defense is going to need addressed here. I've seen people talk about the offensive line. I highly doubt at this point in time that they would take an offensive lineman. The entire offseason has been pointing to them drafting someone on the defense. I don't think right now, yes, their offensive line's not great. I'm not sitting here and defending the offensive line like it's the greatest offensive line in the league. It's not, by any stretch of the imagination. But that defense needs improved. John Lynch loves drafting defensive linemen early. You look at some of his earlier drafts with the 49ers. Drafting defensive linemen early. Building the team through the defensive line. When the 49ers were really good, when they went to that first Super Bowl against the Chiefs, their defensive line was one of the best in all of football. They lost to Forrest Buckner, or traded to Forrest Buckner to the Colts. Guess what? They got Javon Kinlaw right there. Yes, it didn't work out in the long run, but they had that plan to go, okay, we got this guy gone. Now we're going to replace him with this guy. I think Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart we brought before, Mason Graham, if he's available, I think could all be realistic options here for the 49ers. I think also Jahdae Barron and Will Johnson, obviously at cornerback, that could be an option there as well. But I don't really see a reality where they take a tackle. I don't. At this point in time. I think it's either an edge rusher, D tackle, or corner. And I would put it in that order. Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, if you want to trade back, it wouldn't shock me if they went with one of those guys either. But I think Williams or Stewart are your most likely options. Could be completely wrong. Could be totally wrong on that. Number 12, the Cowboys. It looks like Matthew Golden or McMillan, and I think if McMillan's gone, it's just Golden. But I guess they could take Amari and Hampton. There's been reports of the Broncos trying to trade up in the draft because people think they want Amari and Hampton, which I think is very realistic on why they would want Amari and Hampton. But the Cowboys, I think, are leaning receiver. I'm not going to sit here and stake my whole livelihood on that or anything, but based on everything I've seen, it looks like Golden or McMillan. And the past couple days, I've been seeing more and more McMillan going earlier than 12. Not saying that's guaranteed to happen or anything, but that would open the door for Golden at number 12, who, from everything I can tell anyways, kind of divides opinions out there. McMillan's pretty consensusly ranked as either the top or second best receiver in the draft, and the only reason for that is because Travis Hunter is some of those people's number one receiver. But he's pretty consistently ranked as number 1 or 2. Golden, I've seen as low as 7 on some people's rankings. And I'm not saying you need to go and fully listen to those people's rankings, but there's a lot of question marks about where he truly is. In my opinion, he's going to be the second receiver or even first receiver taken in this draft. I think if I had to bet, he would be the Cowboys guy. That would be my guess at this point in time. I'm not going to stake anything on that. But McMillan or Golden seem like the most realistic options. Hampton, again, could be an option here. I'm not going to rule that out completely either. But it looks like Golden or McMillan. The Dolphins at 13. Right now, it kind of seems like the secondary. Before, you would have easily slotted in a tackle. But with Terron Armstead, especially with Terron Armstead retiring, but a lot of the things I've seen, they're perfectly content with Patrick Paul, the last year's second-round pick, starting at left tackle this year. They're perfectly content with it. They got Austin Jackson at right tackle, Patrick Paul at left tackle. If they're going to try and do that, go ahead. Try that. I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying that's going to be the worst thing in the world. I saw a tweet that said, how much faith do you have in Patrick Paul as your starting left tackle in regards to the Dolphins fans? Most of them were somewhere in the range of 6.5 to 8. They're pretty confident in him going into the season, given the fact that they've been heavily linked to a left tackle throughout this entire offseason. But right now, it looks like it's going to be either Barron or Johnson or Starks or even Worry. Those are your main guys. I wouldn't be shocked, I guess, if you looked at maybe they go Walter Nolan. Maybe they go that direction. Maybe they go a little bit off the wall a little bit and take a D tackle. But I think right now it just seems like one of the corners or one of the safeties. I haven't nailed down an exact spot. I mean, corner's probably the bigger need because I know they've talked about trading Jalen Ramsey, but the starter next to Jalen Ramsey ain't that special. Even before they trade Jalen Ramsey, who could be traded during the draft. Lord knows. So maybe there's an option there, and it's going to be a stylistic thing with Johnson and Barron. Barron's more versatile, can play the nickel, can play the outside, won the Jim Thorpe Award last year. Will Johnson's coming off an injury-riddled season, and there is a knee injury, I think, a knee issue that I think I saw. Won't affect his immediate future, but could affect his long-term future. And if you know anything about Chris Greer, injuries don't really matter to him. Drafted Tua coming off the hip injury, and he drafted Jalen Phillips when he was retired 2 years prior to that. Injuries ain't really the concern for Chris Greer in the draft, especially early. So if with that Will Johnson thing scares you off him at 13, well, don't rule it out. I'm just saying, don't rule it out. The Colts at 14, it just feels like a tight end. It feels like Loveland or Warren. I wouldn't be shocked, I guess you say, if you went for a corner or a linebacker here. Giod Campbell, I think would make a lot of sense for the Colts here at 14. I think he would. I really think he would make a lot of sense here. But it just feels like it's either Warren or Loveland. And with Warren probably going off the board as early as 7, as late as 14, but if he doesn't make it to 14, as late as 10, you're just going to have to, I don't want to say suck it up with Loveland. That's a ridiculous thing to say. They're not far off in regards to how good of players are. They're different, Loveland and Warren, but I don't want to make it sound like, oh my God, we couldn't get Warren. Now we gotta take Colston Loveland. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Colston Loveland's a great, great player. If you want a receiver from the tight end spot, he would be your guy. And I think he'd be an excellent addition to the Colts tight end room and give Anthony Richardson that reliable target at the tight end position. I know Chris Ballard, has kind of been like, oh, we like what we got in the tight end room. Well, yeah, you're not going to I remember, again, Cliff Kingsbury saying he loved Josh Rosen, that he was their guy, and they still drafted Kyler Murray first overall. Like, it happens. You're going to say what people want to hear. I don't really care if they're like, oh, we like what we got here. No, you don't. You have gotten next to no production position for however many years now. Like, stop it. Move on. It's time to move on from that. Like, if Loveland's there, take him. But again, Will Johnson, Jahdae Barrett, more so Will Johnson with the Colts. I don't want to say locked in, but I'm more confident with the Colts taking Will Johnson than Miami, even though the injury thing is really funny with the Dolphins. But Geod Campbell, I think, would also make a lot of sense for the Indianapolis Colts. The Falcons at 15, please, Atlanta, just for once in your G-dang life, take an edge rusher. Like Mike Green, Shamar Stewart, I don't care. They're not going to take Mykel Williams. They have never drafted a Georgia player in the first round. I didn't know that until recently, which I think is an insane stat. Doesn't feel real, doesn't sound real, but I guess it is real. And if Mykel Williams is there, I would imagine there's a little contingent that's like, okay, we got to take him. But like the Packers with the receivers or the Saints with the quarterbacks, there's certain things that teams just for whatever reason are like dead set on not doing. And the Falcons drafting a Georgia player is something they're dead set on not doing. Drafting an edge rusher is something they're not doing. So Geod Campbell, I think would make sense. One of the corners, I think would make sense as well to get somebody opposite of A.J. Terrell. I think those are two options there. Maybe they go D-tackle. Maybe they go completely off the wall and take like a Derek Harmon or Walter Nolan. Maybe they go that direction. But I think at this point in time, you kind of just like back yourself into a corner. You're like, okay, well now I think we've got to take an edge rusher. And you're looking at Williams, Stewart, and Green. The two that I've seen them linked with the most is Stewart and Green. So take with that information what you will. Those are the two I've seen the most with. If I had to bet right now, I'd probably guess Green. If I had to bet, I would guess Mike Green for Atlanta. Out of those two. The Cardinals at 16, there's a couple different directions I've seen the Cardinals talking about here. Edge rusher, D-tackle, offensive line, corner, receiver is something I've also seen in there. Starting with the receiver, you got Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, who didn't have the rookie season that I think a lot of people were like looking to and going like, okay, this guy's going to absolutely tear up the league. He's going to have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase level rookie season, and he's going to absolutely blitz everybody. He just didn't have that. He had a normal rookie season. He had 885 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he didn't have a Malik Neighbors season. He didn't have a Brian Thomas season. He didn't have a Ladd McConkey season. So now we're in panic mode that, we took the wrong guy. He's like, no, okay, let's be patient. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing that all the time. Like, after a rookie year, oh my God, we took the wrong guy. Things will work itself out. And it's not because of Marvin Harrison Jr. why they're taking a receiver. They just don't really have a lot of options apart from him. Like, you got Michael Wilson, you got Gray Dortch, Zay Jones is on the team. Like, you do need a receiver, but I don't think one of the first rounds likely for the Cardinals. I do think it's more likely you get an offensive lineman. I think Gray Zabel would make a lot of sense for Arizona to fill one of those interior offensive line spots. I've seen a lot of links recently with Kelvin Banks because, again, like we talked about before, his athleticism would allow him to play inside at guard, but I don't know if he makes it there at this point in time. I have seen a decent amount of links with him going to Arizona. I don't know how true those are, but you're looking at probably one of the D linemen or edge rushers. Shamar Stewart, someone I've seen going there. Mykel Williams from Georgia, again, someone I've been seeing there go quite a bit. Maybe they go off the wall and take Geod Campbell. Maybe they go that direction too. But corner I would probably list as the lower level of needs on defense, but I still think it could be an option. I think if I had to bet, I would say one of the D tackles or edge rushers. That would just be my gut that's my gut feeling right now with the Cardinals, but they could go a multitude of different directions. We listed like 6 positions out on just this one pick. They could trade back. I haven't talked about teams trading back really or trading up, except for Jacksonville and Chicago, but the Cardinals, they could be a team that trades back. 100% they could trade back. The Bengals at 17, they have to take a defensive player, right? They have to. And it's got to be a D lineman or edge rusher. Or D tackle or edge rusher, sorry. I know they signed B.J. Hill. Trey Hendrickson's still on the team, but Sam Hubbard's retired, remember that. So you still have a need at edge rusher. And that Trey Hendrickson thing's just really odd. It's really odd. Like the Bengals, they signed both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, which we all knew they were going to sign Jamar Chase. They'd be stupid not to. Jamar Chase, I've said this for a while now, and I saw people kind of running with it this year. I'm not saying like, oh, they stole my take. I'm not saying that at all. But it was like he's got the potential to be the best receiver in football. But to sit here and go like he is undoubtedly better than Justin Jefferson at this point, I think is a little fast. I think there could be an argument that he's more talented than Justin Jefferson. But in regards to like who's the better player, you have to take Justin Jefferson. Like Justin Jefferson, both of them are going to be all-timers when it's said and done. But it's still Justin Jefferson's team. It's still Justin Jefferson's position at this point in time. But T. Higgins, it looked like franchise tag, get a big haul for him. Or at least a decent haul for him. And then you use the money that you saved on trading T. Higgins away by adding to the defense that was one of the worst in football. And the reason you missed the playoffs. You did not miss the playoffs because of your receivers or your quarterback. You didn't miss it because of those. You missed it because you couldn't stop anybody. And you lost to the Patriots week 1. That's sacrilegious anyways. But you lost to them week 1. So now your defense is kind of just like sitting back. And you could really... I know I limited it to edge rushers and D tackles. You could make an argument that the Bengals could draft any of the positions available here at 17. You could go D tackle, edge rusher, linebacker, corner, safety. You could go any of those directions. I don't think anybody would look at the Bengals awkwardly if they took any of those spots. That's how rough their defense is. Like I've seen mock drafts with them taking Nick Emanwari before. Malachi Starks, Will Johnson. I've seen Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, Shamar Stewart, Mykel Williams, Mike Green, Giod Campbell even. Like we've seen them take every single player on the defensive side of the ball under the sun. And you know what they're probably going to do? They're going to probably take freaking Matthew Golden. They're not going to. They're not. They can't. They're not going to. But if they did, that'd be crazy. They need to take someone on defense. And my guess at this point would be a D tackle or edge rusher. Get after the quarterback. Do it. Your main target is the Ravens. And they got the most athletic quarterback in the NFL. Chase him. Get him. Like that's your number one priority at this point in time. Improve the defense. You maybe might get back to the playoffs. Not be wasting your offense. Stupid. But yeah, the Bengals are at 17. 18's the Seahawks. It seems like it's either offensive line or McMillan. Like, I've seen people talk about, like, Matthew Golden could be not. I don't really think they would take Golden. I think it would be, if they took a receiver, it would only be McMillan. I don't think they would take Golden. I don't, at this point, think that. But offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, Gray Zabel, Tyler Booker, Donovan Jackson. Like, I think these are guys that, if we're talking about interior offensive lineman, I think only Zabel will be the option there at 18. But I'm just listing off other offensive linemen, sorry. Maybe they take Kelvin Banks. If he's available, again, talking about the position of versatility, maybe Josh Connerly. Maybe we see like a rogue selection and Josh Connerly comes off the board. I have seen him being talked about like rising up boards this week. I have seen that. He was a first-round guy early in the offseason, and then as the middle portion came in, it was like, he's kind of dying off a little bit. And now we're back to where him going to Seattle once again is not really that crazy of an idea. So, and he can play guard if you need him to. Like, and Mike McDonald is going to want to run the football. They fired Ryan Grubb because of, what do you want to call it? Different differences, ideals. Like, if you look at what Ryan Grubb wants to do, he wants to throw the football. You look at what they did at Washington with Kalen DeBoer, and he went down to Alabama. They want to throw the football. And you look at what the Seahawks did last year. They threw the football. JSN went off last year. The Seahawks passing offense was fairly solid. They had no rush offense. A lot of that goes down to the offensive line. You have two good backs in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. You have two capable backs. So why was your rush offense not good? A lot of that, again, stems from the offensive line and Grubb just not wanting to do that. McDonald's a defensive guy, and you look at the 2 past teams he was with, the Ravens and freaking Michigan. 2 Harbaughs. What are the Harbaugh's favorite things to do? Run the damn ball. That's what the Seahawks want to do. So if they took a receiver, it would have to be a big-bodied wide receiver like McMillan to complement Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith-Njigba. They don't need Matthew Golden there. They need that big-bodied guy because they traded away DK Metcalf to the Steelers. And you can maybe look at maybe they go Jaden Higgins later in the draft. Maybe that's a direction they go with the bigger body receiver there. But if they went that early, it would have to be him. But if not him, I would guess either Zabel or Connerly. That would be my 2 guesses at this point in time in regards to the offensive line position. But again, maybe they go completely rogue. Maybe they go with an edge rusher or something. I don't know. Maybe they go Derek Harmon, go with an Oregon guy. Maybe that's the direction they go. Nicky Manwari, I kind of forgot about this. Nicky Manwari could be an option. They don't necessarily have the biggest need in the world at safety, but hey, maybe you want to give Mike McDonald someone similar to what he had with Kyle Hamilton. Not an exact replica of Kyle Hamilton, but someone like that. Cam Chancellor can be compared to Cam Chancellor in the past. He was coached by the same guy that coached Cam Chancellor when he was at Virginia Tech. There's stuff there, so maybe that's an option. But yeah, so Seahawks at 18. That's going to be one to somewhat look out for. The Buccaneers, this one, I don't know why. This one I feel more like down to 2 players. And maybe I'm a little crazy here. I feel like it's Jihad Campbell or Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College. That's what it feels like. Malachi Starks, I think, is also an option here, but I think we can all agree on that the Bucs are going to take a defensive player here. And Jihad Campbell, not replace initially, but eventually replace Levante David, who signed a 1-year deal. But you also have a need at edge rusher. You did sign Hassan Reddick this offseason. If he can get back to his form, then that's great for you. But if you get the Hassan Reddick that we just saw pouting around in New Jersey with the Jets, you're not going to be too happy. You're going to need some more pieces there. And those are the 2 names I've seen thrown around there more than any other name. Jihad Campbell feels like the most natural fit there. Out of every fit in the draft, that one feels the most natural. I don't know if I definitely can't be alone in that. Because it feels like every other mock draft, every mock draft has Jihad Campbell damn near every mock draft has Jihad Campbell going to the Bucs. Damn near every single one. So that's an option, and that's the big option. And Ezeraku, again, that one, again, feels like a realistic option there as well. The Broncos at 20, everybody's pointing to Omari and Hampton for the Broncos. Makes sense. Get a running back in there, help Bo Nix out on offense. I've seen Luther Burden from Missouri get talked to a lot about this. See, this is where I like they've done a lot of work with, because you're picking 20th. There we can start to figure things out a little bit. I don't care about if you've done extensive work with a top prospect, you pick 5th. I don't care. 20th, that's where it gets a little bit interesting. So maybe Luther Burden's an option there. The Broncos, when is their 2nd round pick? Let me check this out real quick. 51st. So can you trade up in the 2nd round and get yourself a Luther Burden? Maybe. But it just seems like Amari and Hampton right now. But I'm not going to rule out a safety, Eamon Wari, Malachi Starks, and a D tackle. I would not rule out any of those options. Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, I think are all options for Denver. But everybody's going to point to running back. I don't want to sit here and say that that's the only thing they're looking at. It's a very realistic option that they're looking for running back, and that's the only thing they may be actually looking for. But there are other positions of need on this team that they could definitely look at with this pick. I don't think tight end's an option anymore with them getting Evan Ingram. I don't think that's as much as a need as it was, say, a month ago. So Loveland and Warren, I don't think are the options here. But that would be a trade-up situation. They wouldn't get them here. But yeah, it's Hampton, D tackle, or safety. That would be my guess. The Steelers at 21, D tackle or quarterback. If to me, it's either Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, or Shedeur Sanders. Again, we brought this up where it was like the Steelers are going to want to bring in 4 quarterbacks this season. They have 2 on the roster, and it's Skylar Thompson and Mason Rudolph. If they bring in Aaron Rodgers, cool. If they don't, you're still not going to have 4. I think the only quarterback they take in the first round is Shedeur. That's what my gut is telling me. And I just, for whatever reason, I don't know how to explain it. I just can't picture Jackson Dart playing for the Steelers. I can't. I could picture Kenny Pickett playing for the Steelers. I can't picture Jackson Dart playing here. I could see Tyler Shuck playing there. I could see Jalen Milroe playing there. Will Howard, I could picture him play. Jackson Dart doesn't feel like a Pittsburgh Steeler player. And that's not even a negative on Jackson Dart. I just can't picture it. And maybe I'm alone in that, but Shedeur Sanders, if he's available, which is looking more and more likely, then he would make the most sense there. And the Steelers, if you look at the other teams in front of them, how many other teams do we mention apart from the Saints that are linked with quarterbacks? None of them. Bears, Niners, Cowboys, Dolphins, Colts, Falcons, Cardinals, Bengals, Seahawks, Bucks, Broncos. How many of those teams do we mention quarterback? Not any of them. And if you look behind them, who's the closest team that could take a quarterback? That could take a quarterback. It's the Rams at 26. So you've got 5 picks of separation and 11 picks before you. Like, you are sitting in a pretty decent spot to where you don't really need to move all too much. Because I've seen people like, oh, they could trade up with the Carolina Panthers at 8. I don't know if they'll need to do that. They could. Like, secure your guy, fine, I understand it, but I don't know if that's necessarily that you need to do that. And I think up until Sanders' quote-unquote reported fall, because he could still go to the Giants. I don't want to rule that out completely. He could still go to the New York Giants at 3. But until then, it was like, oh, the Steelers are probably going to take a D-tackle. That was my thought. One of the 3 that I mentioned before. That was the thought process there. With Ogunjobi leaving for Buffalo, thanks again for the 6-game suspension, and Casey Hayward getting older. Or Cam Hayward, sorry, getting older, not Casey Hayward. So, if Shedeur's there, I think they take him. If he's not, then I think they take a D-tackle. The Chargers at 22, I think it's a Michigan guy. It's either Kenneth Grant or Will Johnson. That's what my gut's telling me, or Colston Loveland. It's one of the 3 Michigan guys in this first round. Mason Graham's not going to make it here. But the other 3, those are guys that I think are options here. If I had to bet on one of them, I would say Mason Grant. Or the one I said it wouldn't make it here. Kenneth Grant would be my pick, if I had to choose one of those Michigan guys for the Chargers to pick. Big guy. They lost a couple people on the defensive line this offseason. They had a good defense last year. They had one of the better defense in the league. Massive improvement from the season prior. Like, again, he's a Harbaugh. He has once described Kenneth Grant as a gift from the football gods. Like, if Kenneth Grant's here, which some reports suggest that he could be going a little bit sooner than this, then I don't really see a reality where they wouldn't take him. But again, corner is an option here as well. Sante Samuel Jr. still unsigned as far as I can tell. So maybe you do take Will Johnson. Bigger corner than Sante Samuel, but if you have an option to take him here at 22, you wouldn't really pass on that opportunity unless you had Kenneth Grant available there as well. Receiver, sure. Golden could be an option. I think I had him going there last mock draft. But to be honest, I kind of threw away mock draft 3.0 right after I posted it. I didn't like it right after I posted it. But maybe there's an option there. Maybe they take a running back. I know they signed Najee Harris this offseason, but maybe they still take a running back. Doubt it. But my guess would be D-tackle. Dark horse interior offensive lineman. You never have too many offensive linemen. I know there's only 5 players on the field for offensive line, but you can never have too many of those. Never too many. Gray Zabel, hey, I could see him playing for Jim Harbaugh. I could see that 100% him playing for Jim Harbaugh. But yeah, Kenneth Grant feels like the option there for the Chargers. At 23, the Packers. Corner, Jair Alexander, the closer we get to the draft, it more and more looks likely that he's going to get traded. So top corner, maybe. Will Johnson, if he falls here, again, we brought up the knee injury. So maybe if he falls here, you take him. Jahdae Barron. Because like we brought up with, the quarterback thing, maybe to a lesser extent, because I did bring up like the Colts and Falcons and Cardinals in there, and even the Bengals to a certain extent, where they could take a corner. Those needs are a little bit lower on the list than some of their other needs like edge rusher and D-line. So there could be a reality where if one of the corners, Johnson or Barron, go to the Dolphins, that one of them falls to 23, or the Packers trade up a little bit to get one of those guys. Maybe they trade with I don't know. I don't want to say Cardinals because it's going from 23 to 16. It's a pretty big jump. But let's just trade up a little bit to get one of those guys. Maybe. But you also got like Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. You got Trey Amos from Ole Miss, who I think would probably be my guess if the Packers did go a corner, if not one of the other guys we mentioned. I mean, edge rusher is always an option for the Packers as well. I think Shamar Stewart fits that traitsy mold that the Packers seem to look for with those types of defensive players. People are going to talk about wide receiver as well. It's not going to happen. As much as I would love to see it happen, I think it'd be funny to see it happen. The freak out on social media and during the draft would be pretty hilarious. And the Packers do need some help at wide receiver. It's not like it's some like random need or anything. But again, I just think defense is their main MO in the draft, and at least in the first round. And you're looking at one of the corners, one of the edge rushers, or one of the D tackles, in my opinion. Maybe they take a lineman. Maybe they take an offensive lineman. I don't know. But 24, the Vikings. The Vikings need... they're a weird one because they got like 4 or 5 picks, if I'm not mistaken. They're the most likely team, in my opinion, to trade back. Maybe even twice. Like, you look at, like, let's say hypothetically, they trade back with the Chiefs. Chiefs pick at 31. Chiefs one of the tackles. They don't think one of the tackles is going to get there. Because they're like, oh, the Texans there at 25, the Rams there at 26. They could take tackles. Even the Ravens at 27, they could take a tackle. So we might not get our guy. The Vikings are sitting there with 4 or 5 picks. They're like, hey, we need some picks. We'll trade back with you. Chiefs jump up to 24, and then a team needing a quarterback or wanting a quarterback is like, hey, Vikings at 31, can we trade up with you? They go, yeah, and they'll trade back again. Just accumulate more draft picks. So that would be the most, I don't want to say most likely, but they're the most likely team to trade back. I'm not saying that's the most likely scenario, but they are the most likely team to trade back because they got no picks. But if you look like the Giants back in the day, when they drafted Justin Tuck and Brennan Jacobs, like they had 3 picks, I think, that entire draft. And all 3 of those guys worked out pretty damn well for them, and they were key members on Super Bowl winning teams. Like the Giants Vikings could just sit there at 24 and take one of the corners and take one of the safeties. Dark Horse, one of the D tackles. You look at Walter Nolan. This is the same 3 D tackles I'm always bringing up. But you look at one of those D tackle spots. Corner again. Safety again. I know they're probably a little bit spurned from the Lewis Cine incident, when they could have drafted Kyle Hamilton, trade back the Lions, took Lewis Cine with the last pick in the first round. I know there's probably a little bit of scar tissue still there, but you do need that. Harrison Smith's not getting any younger. Bynum left in free agency. You do have a hole there that you could fill with Malachi Starks and Nicky Manwari, but corner would probably be my guess. But again, I just feel like it's likely that they trade back in the first round. That would be my most likely scenario. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's what my gut's telling me at this point. The Bills, they could trade back with them. Trade up with them, sorry. They could trade up with them if we're going to the top defensive players. We'll talk about the Bills in a little bit. The Texans, they're taking a lineman. There's going to be people talking about a receiver here. They're taking a lineman. I don't care if it's Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly, Gray Zabel, Donovan Jackson, Tyler Booker. I don't care which one it is. They are taking an offensive lineman here at 25. They're not taking a receiver. They have completely reshaped their offensive line. I think it's going to continue here. Moving on. Rams at 26. It feels like offensive lineman or corner. I think Trey Amos from Ole Miss, we brought him up before with the Packers, would make a lot of sense here. I know they re-signed Witherspoon, but the Rams have done a nice little thing recently. They've kind of pulled a strategy from the Chiefs where they have drafted defensive players early in the draft. Like, they've done a conceited effort at improving the defensive side of the ball, getting younger on the defensive side of the ball, and going like, well, the offense will figure itself out because we got Sean McVay and Matt Stafford. We will figure it out on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, we're going to draft young, talented players that can play right away and make an instant impact. The past 2 years, they've had Rookie of the Year finalists. You look at Kobe Turner, you look at Braden Fisk and Jared Verse this past year. Like, they've had instant impact players on the defense side of the ball, and that's what's really helped them stay competitive in the NFL. Despite all the injuries that they had last season, they still ended up winning the division. And a lot of that, yes, they have great players on the outside of the ball like Stafford, Nakua, Cooper Kupp. Not anymore with Kupp. They brought in Devontae Adams, though. Kyron Williams played really well last year. But their defense played great. So Amos, Hairston, I think could be options. Thomas, even from Florida State, could be an option there. Siobhan Ravel from East Carolina. Tackle again. You look at the Simmons, the Connerlys. I think they'd also make a lot of sense there as well. Even though they did re-sign Alaric Jackson, I do think those are options. And Emeka Egbuka would make a very nice schematic fit to replace that Cooper Kupp role. But maybe you want to play Puka Nacua there. I don't know. But I would say either offensive tackle or corner would be my guesses for the Rams at this point. The Ravens at 27, Ronnie Stanley just re-signed. Can you count on him long-term? We will have to wait and see. But Macari left in free agency. Remember, he went down to Jacksonville, so you got a hold there at guard. A tackle or a guard could be an option here for the Ravens. Safety, they've obviously talked about wanting to add a player in the secondary that could allow Kyle Hamilton to that more freedom, have that freer role in the secondary. And their secondary was bad last year. Yes, it improved in the back half of last season, but you're playing some trash cans at quarterback, so it doesn't really matter all too much. You want to see that consistency where you're playing the best in the league. So maybe that's an option. You could also draft a corner. Stevens left in free agency as well. But from everything I've seen, it looks like the Ravens are either going to target a defensive tackle or an edge rusher. Those are the main two spots they're looking at right now. I've seen James Pierce's name get thrown around. Derek Harmon, if he's available. Walter Nolan. These are guys that I've seen get thrown around these conversations. But, again, I don't want to rule out offensive linemen here at all. And there's going to be some people that say, well, the Ravens should also draft a wide receiver. Doubt it, but it's still, I wouldn't be shocked. But edge rusher, D-line, safety, offensive line, I think those are your main four spots. But I would lean toward, if Malachi Stark's available, it's going to be a very hard player to pass up here at 27. But edge rusher, D-tackle, I think those are two realistic options there. The Lions at 28. Interior offensive line, Kevin Zeitler went down to Tennessee this offseason, so that's going to be a very solid need. Tyler Booker, we brought it up before with the connection to Alabama. Like, you look at Terrion Arnold, Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch. Like, they've done some extensive work with Alabama with early draft picks. And general managers do tend to gravitate towards those types of players because they're coming from a program they're familiar with. Yes, it's a different coaching staff this year than it was previously, but still the same program and stuff like that, if that makes sense. So Tyler Booker could be an option here for the Lions at 28. Gray Zabel is probably the better option here, but he could be gone by that point. Edge rusher is going to be an option here as well. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be coming back from the leg break. They had a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball last year. Adding someone along the defensive line, whether it's D-tackle or edge rusher, I think are realistic options there. You're looking at Donovan Ezeraku, could be an option. Landon Jackson wouldn't surprise me here. I wouldn't be shocked if Tyleik Williams really went here for the Detroit Lions as well. Two guys, or a couple guys that I don't think would be massive question marks or head scratchers at that point in time. Receiver, dark horse position because they have been linked with trading Jameson Williams. So maybe receivers a dark horse position here. And Emeka Egbuka possibly could be a pick here. I don't know if I would take a receiver in the first round if I was the Lions, because the lines on both sides of the ball could use some additions there. Obviously, defensive side of the ball would probably what more fans want. But again, like we talked about with Aaron Glenn with the Jets, a lot of their success came from reshaping the offensive line. So Tyler Booker, Gray Zabel, Donovan Jackson could be options there for the Lions at 28. 29, the Commanders. I wouldn't be shocked if they traded back, to be honest. And the main reason for that is because I could really see them drafting a running back. I could really, if Amarian Hampton's here, I wouldn't even think twice about them taking him. But Travion Henderson, I don't want to rule that out completely because Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, both fine at best. But you add that other speedy weapon like Travion Henderson to this offense, damn, that could be a lot of fun. And yes, they signed or traded for Deebo Samuel this offseason, but I wouldn't rule out receiver either. I wouldn't rule that out at all. But edge rusher, I think, is going to be the position that a lot of people look for with this pick. Donovan Ezeraku, James Pierce, Landon Jackson, I think are all guys that are going to be in consideration here. Corner could be an option here as well. We brought up the likes of Hairston, Amos, Ravel, Thomas, Benjamin Morrison, Darian Porter from Iowa State. Like, there's some options there. But running back, that wouldn't shock me at all if they went running back. It also wouldn't shock me if they traded back. If they traded back, let's say hypothetically they traded back with the Giants or Browns, who picked 33 or 34, who need a quarterback or want a quarterback. You trade back a couple spots, do what the Bills did last year, get the guy you might have wanted in the first round, but get some other capital with that. That's not a bad move. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if they went with one of the running backs here. I wouldn't. But edge rusher is probably the need that most people point to with the Commanders. The Bills at 30. This one's a little bit of an interesting one because they did just re-sign Trey White. They're bringing the band back together pretty much. They brought Trey White back. They brought Dane Jackson back. That obviously does not mean they're not drafting corner. That obviously does not mean that. I do think, though, that being said, it lessens the urgency, potentially, of them drafting a corner with their first pick guaranteed. I think a lot of people are pointing to that spot right now, and it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. But the Bills, like we talked about before with the Bears, they have 2 second-round picks. The Bills pick at 58, and they have a later one at 62. Like, the Bills could use one of those picks realistically on a corner because there was a stretch earlier, like a couple weeks ago or a month ago, where like there could be a massive run of corners in the back half of the first round. All those guys we mentioned before could all go in the first round. Right now, there's a chance that none of those guys go in the first round. I'm not saying that's exactly what I'm thinking is going to happen, but there's a chance that that scenario plays out like that, where none of Amos, Hairston, Ravel, Morrison, Thomas, those guys don't go in the first round. And if those guys don't go in the first round, now obviously I think at least one of them will. Well, I think it would more likely be Hairston or Amos. But if those guys, like the other guys, fall, what's to say the Bills can trade up with one of those first two second-round picks and get one of those guys? And then we talked about the Vikings earlier with the safety position. Maybe they are a little bit spurned from drafting a corner. The last corner they drafted in the first round was Kyrie Elam, who got beat out by a guy who was drafted in the 6th round the same year he was drafted. Yes, Trey White was drafted in the first round. That was awesome. Trey White was great. But the most recent one is the one that scares you a little bit. And if I'm looking at what the Bills tend to do in the draft, Landon Jackson feels like the most Billsy pick to me. Like, if you listen to what Brandon Beane said today, he was talking about pretty much you want edge rushers. Like, you want the run-stopping defensive tackle, but like I talked about with corners, could you get one of the better defensive tackles? We talk about the depth of at the position. Could you not realistically think you could get one of those guys with one of your 2 second-round picks? Like, if I had to guess who the Bills' first-round draft pick would be right now, my gut, I've tried to, like, talk myself out of it, but Landon Jackson just feels like the guy the Bills would get. Bigger dude, athletic freak, has a lot of traits. The Bills are a very traitsy team when it comes to the first round of the draft. Character guy as well. Could play interior, can play outside. The Bills do a lot of rotating on the defensive line. A lot of rotating. Hoyt, who they signed from the Rams this offseason, also got a 6-game suspension. So that's awesome. You did bring in Joey Bosa, which is nice, but on a 1-year deal. And what's the guarantee that he can stay healthy for a full season? You got one guy in a 6-game suspension, one guy you might not get 6 games out of this year. Like, we can't guarantee anything on the edge rusher spot. Like, I think if Landon Jackson's there, which is very likely that he's there, he could be the guy the Bills end up picking. I think Tyleik Williams from Ohio State is another guy that could be very interesting here at pick 30. But you look at the second round, and there's some good options in the second round too. So I don't want to completely just like pinpoint the Bills down to one spot, but it does look like edge rusher, D tackle, corner are the 3 spots that you would think they look at. Safety, that maybe, I doubt it, but maybe. But yeah, they have options, and they have a lot of picks. I want to say they have 10 picks, I believe. Like, they could make a move up the board, too, if a player starts to slide a little bit. One thing Brandon Beane is scared when it comes to trading picks in the draft. He is not afraid of moving around the draft board at all. So, now, in that same breath, I know he does value those day 2 picks. So, I don't think he'll move up too crazy. So, we might not see him jump from 30 all the way up to 16 or something. but a slight trade up in the draft could be an option. If not that, then again, I think one of the corners, one of the D tackles, or Landon Jackson. Those would be my ideas for the Bills. 31, the Chiefs. We've already talked about the trade up potential with the Vikings to take one of the top tackles. Tackles just seemingly their number one need. Yes, they brought in the dude from San Francisco, but is that enough to like solidify them? Like, okay, no, we do not need a tackle anymore. I don't think so. So I would still say tackle's number one priority. D tackle's an option. Corner could be an option here as well. But offensive tackle, Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly, Donovan Jackson played left tackle at Ohio State after Josh Simmons went down injured. So there's some options for the Chiefs. Trade up could be a possibility as well. If they don't feel like either one of Simmons or Connerly or whoever is going to follow them at 31, because of the teams we mentioned before could take a tackle, then that could open the door for that. But if they want to stand pat at 31, then they can do that as well and just take whoever they want there. But at 32, the Eagles, this is a team that's been taught about trading up as well, based on recent reports, and that wouldn't shock me. They're probably going to take someone on the defensive line, edge rusher or D tackle. You look at Josh Sweat left, Brandon Graham left. Who went to the... I'm completely blanking. Why? Patriots. Milton Williams. I was blanking on that. Milton Williams wrote to the Patriots. So you lost 3 key members on a defensive line that just was one of the main reasons you won the Super Bowl. Dominant defensive line. Rotated a lot of pieces on that defensive line. So Walter Nolan, Josh Pierce, Donovan Ezeraku could all be options here for the Philadelphia Eagles at 32. If they wanted to trade up, the thing is, like, the Eagles are taught, like, oh, the Eagles are going to trade up. Problem is, I don't know who they would be targeting, because I think there's a scenario where all the guys I mentioned could be available there at 32. Maybe they don't think Nolan will be there. I think Pierce will be there. Nolan, I could see a reality where he is there. I could see a reality where he goes a little bit sooner than that. If they want Walter Nolan, then maybe there's a realistic option they do end up trading up the draft board. Maybe they take a safety. Remember, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, they traded down to Houston for Kenyon Green, who they got from the Texans. So you do have a hole at safety. You have a love for Georgia football players. So if Malachi Starks is there, do you take Malachi Starks? Maybe they're trading up for Malachi Starks. Maybe that's the guy they're actually trading up for. Who knows? But it seems like D tackle or edge rusher are the main positions the Eagles will be looking at in the first round. But I could be completely wrong. I could be completely wrong about everything I said here. Every single thing I said. But the main thing is that the NFL draft is finally here, and that's enough for me. That is enough for me. I'm just excited. I'm stressed, but I'm excited because I want my mantra to be as accurate as possible. I know it's not going to be that way, but that's how you just want it to be, which sucks. But yeah, I do hope you enjoyed this little breakdown of each and every pick in the draft and just the little thoughts about what each team could end up doing, some players they could be targeting. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I sincerely apologize. I'll try to be better next time. Make sure, again, to check out all the different social media accounts. Make sure to check out the blog post. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow, like the Facebook page. Check out the Apple Podcasts and Spotify accounts. Make sure to leave a rating around 5 stars on both. I've been Logan Blackman. I hope you enjoyed again. If you didn't, I sincerely apologize. Try to be better next time, and I will see you guys later. Peace.